Having worked with whistleblowers for years, my message cannot be blow the whistle, simply blow the whistle, because the sacrifice is too big for me to take responsibility over this. And it cannot be a choice that you expect from everyone to do something so dangerous and difficult.
Whistleblowers in the Democratic Republic of the Congo knew their lives would be in danger if they exposed the corrupt business dealings of infamous mining magnate Dan Gertler. So they turned to Gabriel Bourdon-Fattal for help. His organization fights for the rights and safety of whistleblowers in Africa. But when Gertler's corruption was finally exposed, everyone, including Gabriel and his colleagues in Paris, came under threat.
My name is Gabriel Bourdon-Fattal. I work at the Platform to Protect Whistleblowers in Africa, PLAF, and I manage DRC projects there. Well, Grady Koko Lebanga and Navi Melela were two auditors in a bank in Kinshasa in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And sometimes in early 2018, they saw someone at the bank that they recognized, businessman Dan Gertler. A couple of months before that, Dan Gertler was sanctioned by the US for corruption. So that should make him a persona non grata at the bank. They started investigating because that was the role. They were auditors at the bank, and they noticed that many companies linked to Gertler were moving millions and millions in cash deposits, withdrawals, transactions, all kinds of shell companies. And what we identified was that following the sanctions that made banking life very complicated for Gertler, in the sense that it was really complicated for him to create accounts and move money. Dozens of companies and accounts were created in Congo by people linked to Gertler. Yeah, it's quite incredible, but it's not so surprising. And when you know how strong he was in DRC, when you know that he's very close to the former president of Congo, Joseph Kabila, when you know how close he is to the ex-director of the GECAMIN, the mining public company of Congo, you realize that his strength in Congo is unprecedented in many ways. So we were surprised, but not so surprised by how far this network was going. And at first, I think they were unaware of what's going to happen to them, how much their lives are going to change because of this. Grady Koko had to leave the country under threats with his whole families within a couple of days. And Navi Melela, during the investigation we were conducting with Global Witness, was made aware of threats that his identity was probably revealed. They did not want to leave DRC, really. These guys, they love Congo and they believe in the country, and they want to go back. Sadly, what happened was we had another wave of revelations based on their documents concerning Gertler, but not only Gertler. And they discovered that they were sentenced to death in the Congo. In a way, I have to say this was more for a shock for them than leaving the country. Being sentenced to death in your own country was for them tragic and difficult, even more than going into exile. When we first conducted the investigations, we were expecting reprisals to an extent, because the people who attack are powerful and the networks were revealed are precious to them. But we did not expect what was coming. It was not only for the whistleblowers that there were attacks, but it was for everyone involved. We had blackmail attempts against the president of PLAF. We had dozens and dozens of letters from lawyers, different lawyers in Israel and France, in the UK, against the media and the NGOs, threatening to sue us if we publish. It is a strong pushback from one guy, but I think the interests at stake were amazingly big. I think he has a strong hold on DRC and mining assets in DRC. I feel like following sanctions, he felt maybe that he might severely suffer from all of this. So he really did everything he could to diminish the revelations. The attacks against us in this case were really meant to exhaust us financially and emotionally, and in a sense it did for a while. But in regards to why we do it, when you work with Grady and Navi, two whistleblowers who gave everything, they were bankers in Congo, they had a good life in DRC, and you see that everything changed for them. They had to go through stress that I cannot even describe. Then it's the minimum for us as an organization to do whatever we can to protect them. And to get some of the attacks against us is, in a way, protecting them. We are a shield for these whistleblowers. That's our mission. So the new president, President Tshisekedi, was elected a couple of years ago, and he really was elected with a promise to fight corruption. This was really his mandate, as he put it. Since then, the results are not perfect, let's say. Let's put politics aside for a second and look at civil society again. And there you can see that the movements against the corruption in DRC are quite incredible. You have more and more whistleblowers, you have dozens of NGOs that fight really with risks to their lives to put things out there, to work with authorities, to try to push for real reform in all sectors. This is the real hope for reform in DRC, I think. Not to generalize, but I think you can see several countries where this is a trend. I think if you look at South Africa and what happened there in recent scandals that led to the resignation of former President Zuma, you have certain regions, yes, where whistleblowers step forward one after the other and actually are more part of the movements. Because it's funny, you think of whistleblowers as individuals, but in these cases you can see really movements of whistleblowers that decide to act one after the other or even together. After months of being in Europe, they are finally a bit settling in. And I think their main challenge right now, after all this time, is to make their families happy and safe. And the other thing they are trying to do is to become activists. I think blowing the whistle is kind of an activism, and they are trying to now integrate themselves in civil society in Congo and do the next organic step of whistleblowing, which is becoming anti-corruption activists and using their sacrifice and their knowledge to help others do the same and to join the call for reform.